Good.
Brother, I'm always honored to talk with a fellow nerd in the fitness space, mate. So I just want to say thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man. Alex, I really appreciate it.
Do you want to give us a little bit of a lowdown of all the crazy stuff that you do? I mean, we might take all 40 minutes to do so, but give us some bullet points, mate.
All right. I've been a personal trainer for 12 and a half years. I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I have been a fitness writer for, oh God, probably about 5 of those years. I have written for T Nation for several years. I've written for the Personal Trainer Development Center, Generation Iron, Barbend, True Coach. Recently Men's Health Magazine, and I'm a consistent contributor to Muscle and Fitness Magazine. And we'll
Wow.
work on some more. Last couple of years, public speaking really blew up. So I think it was last year I had 8 public speaking events. This year I'm on track for somewhere between 8 and 10, depending on how some things work out. I'm also revitalizing my own conference here in Edmonton for middle of October, October 13th and 14th, with a pretty cool lineup. I've got 2 podcasts. One's been going on for about 5.5 years, called the Lift Free and Diet Hard podcast. And along the way, I tend to lean into social media. So I've built a bit of an Instagram following where it's a little playground to have some fun with. So, and on top of that, I coach full-time in person. I coach online. I've got a online women's group strength training program with a partner. And somehow I find time to do a whole bunch of podcast appearances. So that's me.
Dude, that's unreal. Thank you, bro. I guess my follow-up question is, which is one of my favorite questions of all time. Why do you do what you do?
I do what I do because I fell into the industry by accident. I am not the proverbial start out at 18 to 20, have a passion for helping people and a passion for fitness. I grew up in athletics and then gave up athletics at 18 when I went to university. I have a Bachelor of Commerce degree, so I'm a business student first and foremost. And I've done different things in different careers and didn't find a place in any of them. I did banking and I owned a nightclub and I worked in casinos and I worked in various other things that did not become a permanent home for me. I did not feel passionate about them. I did not see a sustainable future. And in looking for something to do after I left one of them at 32 years of age and moving across the country to live in Edmonton, Alberta, where I grew up in St. John's, Newfoundland, on the east coast of Canada, I kept getting asked to work as a trainer at the gym that I trained at. I got seriously into working out, like bodybuilding style stuff. I never competed, probably at 24. Grew up on bodybuilding magazines, and an old friend of mine from the gym is a very well-known IFBB pro. And I kept, again, turning the staff at this gym down. No, I don't want to do this. And finally I said, all right, we'll give it a try. And again, not born out of, ooh, I'm excited to help people. It's like, all right, this is something to do. Pretty quickly, it turned out to be something I was fulfilled by. I enjoyed it. I was overwhelmed. I'm like, how in the hell am I ever going to like be any good at this? But stuck with it. The gym, was really good at the time at filling you up, selling clients for you. Other trainers would turn over and leave. Their clients wanted to come to me. I got full fast. I stayed full. I started getting a lot of referral business. I started getting known for generating a lot of referrals. I started leaning more and more into learning everything I could. I found Dr. Lane Norton's nutrition stuff on YouTube. I started reading strength training stuff from Teen Nation. And I just kept diving in and learning and enjoying the process. And suddenly something that I found myself doing became something I felt very passionate about. There's a book that kind of talks about this. It's called So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. It sort of debunks the passion hypothesis about following your dreams. And, if you find something you're passionate about, you'll never work another day in your life. The reality often is for people, it's you gravitate towards doing the things you are well suited to do and that you're already doing, and you find a passion within that. And ultimately, I started traveling to fitness conferences after I left the old commercial gym where I worked for 6 years. Started spending more time interacting with people on the same path, same journey. Got to meet a lot of the people who I've been listening to on podcasts or reading on T Nation or otherwise consuming some of their media. Many of those people have gone on to become very good friends of mine in the industry now. Many have been guests on my podcast. And somewhere along the way, I started getting invitations to go speak at the events that I was attending. And then that took off. And now I'm in this very weird and surreal place where people treat me like I'm an expert and an authority in an industry with something that I do ultimately love, helping people and sharing media that seems to, enrich lives. So that's kind of the journey.
I think that's what shines through, though, mate. Your interest and then also the love for just helping folk, rather than like, yo, I want to blow up in this fitness thing. I want everybody to kind of look at me, whether I'm an athlete or the best coach or personal trainer, whatever the fuck it is, right? It's just like, no. Essentially, I got interest in it. Okay, I'm fascinated. I want to learn things that I currently don't know about, and then also that you love helping people. And I think that really does shine through. That authenticity shines through, and that's number one. We work in a soft skill business at the end of the day. Like most of it is not what it's how much do you care. Yeah, okay, if you're not talking, if you know what you're saying has no sustenance, then yeah, probably you're not got a very long lifespan within the fitness industry, right? But caring about people, I think, is number one, mate. Soft skills, man.
Being of service. You mentioned about, yeah, sure, there are people who definitely lean into social media with the goal of growing a large social media. The goal is, I mean, and quite frankly, there's nothing wrong with developing a personal brand if your desire is to use it for a great livelihood. I mean, why is it dishonorable to build media following and a business that provides good livelihood through the fitness space and social media, where building a livelihood as a medical professional or any other proverbially normal career,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. Why can't we do it on this front? Okay, but I think people too readily will look at the examples of the bad faith actors and the more influencery type of personalities on social media, where it's more the stereotypical behavior, attention seeking behavior. Fine. I also think it's a giant waste of time and mental energy for coaches to complain about that stuff. I think coaches need to actually focus their attention on what they're doing themselves and how can they actually do a better job of being of service to more people, creating media that more people want to engage in, that helps more people, which invariably will drive more people to your door, which can be the foundation to build a larger brand upon. And you can leverage that brand to create further business and media vehicles that give people good, helpful shit that makes their lives better, right? I mean, here's an important question. Is your audience more the enthusiast listener who likes to work out, or you got other coaches on here, or both?
That's a great question, man, because I'll have conversations with literally anybody and everybody. We've had published poets on here, we've had charities in mental health, we've had just everyday folk just literally just talking shit and telling jokes for an hour. And then we've had like crazy people that are wherever they turn, their industry follows. So it's a bit of a mix. I like it like that. It's a bit of a balance. Opens the doors for some fascinating conversations. It's not always fitness. It's not always mental well-being. It's not always whatever. I've had a couple of sexologists on here, which, as you can probably guess, it took some pretty cool left field turns. And I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna listen to you guys and learn from you. So whatever it goes.
So ultimately, it dictates the direction I'll often take these sort of things. But again, your questions will lead us where we want to go. So I think even for the enthusiast listener, it can be easy to get caught up in going, oh, look at these stupid influencers. Okay, cool. Yeah, sure. There are people out there who are doing dumb shit. But why are we feeding those people your attention? If you are a
Yeah.
user of any social media platform and you are frustrated because of the outrage and the negativity on those platforms, well, these algorithms, they're not smart. They're just bouncing back at you the things that you're consuming, because yes, these algorithms, people are more likely to share negative enragement inducing media, where it's complex social ideology, whether it's politics, whether it's nutritional ideology, which becomes almost like religion, and people
Mm.
get very combative over, or look at this stupid thing that the stupid person is doing on social media and the fitness stuff. People are more inclined to engage with and consume outrage. And even the amount of time you're spending on a post is telling the algorithm and the media platform what you are more interested in, and it's simply going to feed you more of it. So if you want to change the, the inputs, you have to change what you're following and what you're interacting with. And that actually means that you have to turn around and go, all right, I have to unfollow the shit that is making me wound up about the things I care about. Because if you're consuming, let's say it's complex social ideology, which I do not want to get into in any sort of meaningful way, but just on a surface level. If there's something that you feel like you're part of an ideological tribe, then the talking heads within your ideological tribe want you angry and wound up and stressed out and fearful and enraged because they want to mobilize you to do whatever their agenda is. And they have no really good reason to be intellectually honest or fair or objective about the stuff that they're sharing. But it feeds into their user base, which gets their user base wound up. So if you participate in that, because this is the thing that you're emotionally reactive to, then it's going to feed you more of it, but you're the one choosing to engage with it. My message is unfollow this shit. People are like, oh, I need to be informed. Rubbish. Go read a newspaper once a week, find out about what's actually going on in the world instead of spending all of your time in this emotionally reactive and really pissed off state about a lot of stuff that humans were not engineered to actually immerse themselves in emotionally on a constant basis, because our ancestors did not have access to the 24-hour news drip and news stories from every injustice from every corner of the world. You can't possibly care or have an emotional reaction to all of it. It doesn't mean you don't care. It just means that in the grander scheme of things, you can probably have a greater impact on the people in your immediate world and maybe the greater world if you do a couple things. One, if you're more present with the people in your life that you care about. Let's say you've got kids. If the constant state of being plugged into all this enragement means that you're not spending as much time attending to, the development and the welfare of your own kids. I mean, the time invested in them and giving them, the best possible upbringing is a greater investment in the future of the world with the impact those kids are going to have, right? And then maybe you're someone who feels that there's a lot of social injustice. The world is full of social injustice, and we're probably never going to change it all. But constantly being enraged about the things that people say on social media that you disagree with, and attacking and policing them, and then going back and giving yourself a big pat on the back and saying, I did a good job. That's rubbish. That's complete nonsense. How about you actually go and you take your greatest skills and you take the two biggest resources you have, which are your time and your financial resources, and maybe you dedicate yourself to a career and a livelihood that allows you to have more time and or more financial resources to then put those into action to make the world a better place through donating to causes you care about, or volunteering your time, or leveraging whatever impact you can have to actually make the world a better place, even if it's in an incremental fashion, as opposed to, again, just spending all of your time and staying in this very stressed out state by being mad about the things that are on social media. And it's not just consuming the things of your tribe because they want you enraged about the things you're supposed to care about. Notice how your tribe is also constantly posting about the idiotic things, in quotation marks, that the other tribe is doing, the things that make you mad. So you're mad because you're getting wound up about the things that your tribe says, and you're getting mad because you disagree with the shit that the other tribe is also saying. And the product is you're in a state of enragement the whole time. Now, what impact is that having on your own emotional well-being? What impact is that having on your psychological health? Even if you feel like you're in control of it, if you are drowning yourself in the absolute like fire hose of all of this stuff, this negativity, all of the terrible things in the world, and you are justifying that you're being plugged into this stuff nonstop because, oh, if I don't plug myself into this stuff constantly, then that's apathy. And I'm not caring. And like, there are various different quotes about this sort of thing. Nonsense. Just take care of your emotional well-being first. Put your time and your effort into things that you can magnify to have the greatest positive impact on the world. That is a much better way. And at the end of the day, you will feel so much better and more fulfilled, and have your like mental health will be better because you're doing better things. And even if you were to today, you're saying, well, I don't have the livelihood or the means or what have you. And if you're spending, let's say you add it up, spending 4 or 5 hours consuming this kind of media every week. What if you on a Sunday went down to a local, organization and donated your time to do something for people who don't have it as good as you do, right? And helping out. Maybe that's the greatest point of leverage you have. That would probably feel a whole lot better and do a lot more for the world than sharing angry statuses on your social media and getting twisted up about someone who posts something that you disagree with and then getting into a fight with them online, a total stranger across the internet. Because think about the last time you got involved in something like that, and how did that make you feel? It didn't make you feel very good, right? And it stressed you out, and you probably got wound up and your fight or flight kicked off. Maybe it was later in the evening when you're supposed to be winding down. All of a sudden, you notice you didn't sleep as well, and then you slept like shit. So the next day at work, you were not effective, and it just becomes a vicious cycle of nastiness. And there are going to be people who are going to listen to this, like, no, I want to be mad about. Okay, that's you. Fine, that's your problem. I can't help you. But for the ones that are kind of going, yeah, he's right. Shit. All right. You know what you do? You go and you unfollow all of the talking heads, all of the accounts, all of the garbage that is disingenuously feeding you this outrage, even if they're the people that you think you agree with. Because that's the problem, right? Clear your head of this rubbish. And then maybe that's also one of the reasons why you don't have time or mental energy to maybe eat a little bit healthier or find time for the gym, because you're in a constant state of, emotional exhaustion, because the world is full of genuinely problematic things to truly care about. But it's not your duty to bear all of the sins and the evils of the world and the injustices on your shoulders, because you can't possibly fix them all. Will absolutely destroy your own psyche in the process if you try to bear that burden.
I think it goes down the accountability, right? We need to take accountability for keeping ourselves underneath the water, and inevitably we're going to end up drowning. Like we keep ourselves there, and it pisses us off, and we get real emotionally charged. And next thing you know, you're super antsy, and now I'm too fucking burnt out to even go for a walk or something like that. I was like, guys, for Christ's sake, let's just kind of do what you can, in the little ecosystem around. Like you said, the family, maybe you go volunteer at a local homeless shelter or something, volunteer some sort of time online. We can connect with people around the world now, like some sort of noble cause out there that you hold dear to your heart. That's fine, but we can't have them all. There's enough people out there. If we help one other person, everyone's going to be helped. But it also starts with, you got to help your friggin' self.
It really does. And that's what underlies us all.
It's that self-awareness piece, right? Like a lot of people run away from it because it's a hard thing to do. You need to look in that mirror and have that hard conversation with yourself. And that's difficult. You might get into some time and some deep conversations with yourself when you start to despise things that are working around your head, or things that are coming out your mouth, or things you might have done. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's just a character act, dude. Like, we're going to go down, we're going to come back up, we're going to learn, we're going to grow, we're going to decay, we're going to evolve.
You hit on something there. How many people are at their core dissatisfied with where they are? Maybe they don't like themselves. Maybe they don't like the path that they've been on. Maybe they feel unfulfilled. And it's a much easier activity to engage in, to be in a constant state of outrage, moral outrage about other people's thoughts, opinions, what they say on media, because you feel like you're doing something good, you're doing something righteous, when really this is just status play. People are seeking status within their own tribe. The people who are better at attacking Oh, that person said this, that needs to go away. These are also the same sort of people that generally believe in censorship, and it's kind of a slippery slope.
Mm.
But these people just pat themselves on the back because they've done a good deed on the virtual world and yelled at someone, as opposed to actually listening or trying to understand. There's no assumption of charitable intent or to see where is this other person coming from, right? No, it's like this person is bad. But really, I wonder just how much of this stuff is just a mask, a dissatisfaction of what's going on in someone's own life, or a lot of it, as I said, is status seeking because someone has otherwise failed to achieve status or recognition in whether it's work or whatever other social dynamic that they exist within.
Mm.
I find on average, people who tend to be pretty successful in other career domains or other walks of life, they don't as often descend into this kind of rubbish. And we can use celebrities as sort of a microcosm of this. Most of the celebrities who engage in, outrage and get most entrenched in complex political or social things are usually past their prime, has been washed up, celebrities who are still trying to hold on to a little bit of relevance, whether it's, North Americans, if they're familiar with Alyssa Milano, who would be one of these like leftist nut jobs, or a James Woods, who would be kind of a right-wing nut job. They exist on all ends of the spectrum. It is fairly infrequently the people who are, quote, at the top of their game. You don't see The Rock inserting himself into complex,
Mm.
picking a side in complex social ideological stuff, right? The Rock is out there. He's growing his ability to do good on the world. And I think that if someone were to argue, oh, The Rock is not speaking out about blah, 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 well, actually, he tends to pick his spots, and he will say positive things in very nuanced ways as opposed to extremist tribal ways. He's building brand to heights of which we've seen very, very few people ever successfully do it. And there's always talk about the possibility he may one day run for president. And if he does choose to do that, I mean, it's kind of like what Arnold Schwarzenegger did, except Schwarzenegger not being born in the US legally is not allowed to be president, but he went to be the governor of California. And I think he got a harsh wake up call as just how hard that was.
Mm.
But I think Arnold, he leveraged his fame and all of his success in other dimensions, whether it became bodybuilding and it became movies, to try. I think his intentions were honorable, and I think he genuinely tried to do better. So these are just perfect big scale examples of the principles at play.
For sure.
And I know this is ending up being less about fitness and nutrition and more about broader scale things, but I think fundamentally this comes down to like happiness and mindset, and where you put your time and attention. Your life is going to be a reflection of these things. So, I mean, I hope this is giving people something to think about. And if you're one of the people who tends to get caught up in this stuff, it might be your natural inclination to fight against this sort of idea, but just allow it to enter your brain and let it marinate and go. Ask yourself, are you participating in this stuff? Is this stuff actually happening to you? Or you're probably someone who is going, oh yeah, no, I know what you mean. You got people around you who are really caught up in this crap. And quite frankly, they're usually the most awful
Mm.
and unhappy, miserable human beings that you interact with are the people who are caught up with and obsessed with these type of things. And me personally, I just don't want to interact with those type of people. I don't follow them on social media. I don't want to spend time with them in person. I want to spend time with people that I enjoy helping, that make me feel good, that are calming and fun to be around. People who are interested in bigger scale conversation about you know career success and making the world better and having a positive impact. Talking to one of my clients about the book he just wrote, telling a story of a person who wasn't in a position to tell his own story, which is a really cool thing. Or using the opportunities I have in the industry to open doors and create opportunity speaking engagements and podcast appearances, and connect people who I think are really good people who reflect really good values in our society, who are doing it in a way that I think is a better way. That stuff I find fulfilling, right? I think a lot of this stuff comes down to fulfillment. If you're not fulfilled with where you are with your career and your life, it's very easy to turn around and lash out at other people.
I couldn't agree more, man. I couldn't agree more. And like walking the gym floor, like we have done slash are doing still, You might bump into some folk that you never met before, and you get to know them a little bit more, and exchange a conversation or two. And the ones that are not fulfilled are usually ones that end up chasing a vice, right? And then that usually ends up, they throw out all the pain that's going on inside, and they throw it out into someone else. It's somebody else's issue, and it's that person because they believe something else. It's like, dude, if you have the ability to believe, A, then they have the ability to believe B. That's okay. Like, it's just a difference in opinion, and like you said, kind of capitalizing on that point. Somebody's happy what they do. They feel good. They feel like they have some sort of purpose. They feel fulfillment in their role in the greater mission, society, or just their frigging family, just their home. They've got something to work towards, and they're progressing, and they're getting something from it. Those folk are usually ones that are like, yeah, there's some shit out there, man. And if it arrives at my door, the people I care about, I'll do something about it. But I'm also not going to spend no time, no energy, no emotional body energy, not going to lash out in any response. You can go believe that thing, enjoy that time. I'm going to do my thing.
And it's not in any way, shape, or form about apathy.
Oh,
It's
no.
about being strategic,
Yeah.
and it's about maximizing your ability to make the world a better place. And it's about having control and ownership over your emotional reactivity to everything. Okay. Because everything, all marketing wants you to emotionally react to what they're selling you, whether it's an idea, whether it's a product, right? So the better we are at not being emotionally reactive to all these things at all dimensions, the more we have ownership over our own choices, and which means that I think we're less emotionally exhausted, which means that we have a better ability to delay gratification, which shows up in the foods that we eat, which shows up in our ability to engage in proactive physical activity, which our lives are more sedentary. They're more convenient now than they ever were in terms of our history, which is a piece of a very complex puzzle as to why our society is progressively becoming more obese. We know that's true. And one of the answers is because the way that social engineering works, both the deliberate aspects of it and the well-intentioned aspects of it to make our lives better, then it results in more convenience. It results in less, involuntary need for physical activity on average. It requires less effort to go and acquire food. Food is nowhere near as scarce. I mean, there are exceptions, of course, and there's not necessarily equal access to the same quality of food, but there's definitely a lot of access to high calorie, low nutrition food. So it becomes, we actually have to voluntarily choose more on average than we used to. Our parents and certainly our grandparents and before's generations, to not consume the really, really high calorie, convenient food, and to not default to sitting on the couch and scrolling social media and, watching Netflix on binge or play video games past a certain point. I like The Witcher. I love a good video game. I rarely watch TV. I'm currently doing Star Trek Picard, and I actually am really enjoying the nostalgia of going back into the Star Trek Next Generation story. And I can carve out room for that. I will go see Fast and the Furious next weekend with a good friend of mine. We planned it in advance. And I recently got a record of, I buy a lot of vinyl records, a record of a band I love, Typo Negative. Big fan of them. Lead singer, he died over a decade ago, very sad. But I now have all of their records on vinyl, which was a very cool thing. So I put this record on. It just sounds so damn good. There's definitely value in allowing yourself to just immerse in these things that you really enjoy. And I would rather carve out time for those things while making it easier to do that, because I also plan non-negotiable the time to go work out. I am very conscientious about when I prepare my meals and having them accessible to me. I have meals that I made on Sunday evening in the fridge right now that are healthier than the stuff I could go and grab out of convenience. The irony is that going out to get it is not necessarily as convenient as I think it is. It just, it seems to be easier to get in the car than it is to, we still have to have the groceries, but then just turn on the stove and cook things. But now with food delivery apps, we've skipped even that layer. So technically it's more convenient, but that's a lot more expensive. So the whole narrative that it's cheaper to eat, convenient, high calorie food. That's a nonsense narrative. These are all narratives that just justify the fact that people just make the default choice, which is the whatever they perceive as being more convenient. So I just hope this stuff is stuff that gets people to think a little bit and challenge their default settings, and just the way that they've resigned to letting going through life being like a buoy on the water, and wherever the waves and the wind kind of push you, as opposed to proactively saying, I am going to work in this direction because this is important to me, and I'm going to take more control over the things that are within my influence, and I'm going to be more stoic and less emotionally reactive to the things that I cannot change, which is a lot of things. And we have to look at the more insidious things that, like I said, whether it's social engineering by well-intentioned social engineering to make our lives more convenient, or the more manipulative, nefarious stuff. We definitely know goes into certainly some of the social media stuff, where these applications, they want to maximize the amount of time people spend on them, whether it's your YouTubes or your TikToks or what have you. Knowing that stuff at least allows you to be better about boundaries, so that way these things are not manipulating you. You are using them for your purposes. Okay. When I use social media has been very good to me for the most part. On average, I probably spent more time on it over the last few years than maybe I should have. But I've also come to understand, at least for my career, it's allowed me to study and understand a lot of things that I've been able to then turn around and leverage. But I think for most people, I think they're passive consumers.
Yep.
And if you notice that you're passively consuming and doom scrolling, especially if you've got a career where you're doing this as opposed to working on, skill acquisition that allows you, maybe you're not happy with your circumstance, your current job. Well, could you be using the time you're scrolling on social media to be acquiring skills, valuable skills like sales, leadership, or other technical skills that would allow you to then find another job that you might find more fulfilling, better paying? And if it's better paying, that may actually allow you more time to create more time to do the things that will be better for your physical and mental health, whether it's carving out more time for exercise or better nutritional planning, or both, right? These things all cascade together. And I know this whole thing kind of started by going away from, I think, a lot of traditional fitness knowledge, but I think it actually is sort of instrumental. A lot of people don't even think about the role that how we interact with the world, our environment, and media. Because a lot of this stuff, again, I think we're very reactive and we're consuming it passively versus consuming it intentionally and proactively to our own purpose. It is okay to go into social media with intention to enjoy the experience of doing it. It is okay to go in, and quite frankly, if your feed is more cat videos, I've got a couple friends who just send me nothing but cat videos. So all the stuff, when like you get 3 posts that are like the accounts you follow, and you get the one account you're not following, it's mostly cat video at this point, which is a fortunate accident as opposed to any like enragement bullshit. Let me get myself back on track here. And you can go in and you can see, the latest update of, your friends posting, what's going on with their kids, or you can see the accounts that are sharing good fitness information, or maybe some of the career-based stuff that you're interested in, because there's only generally one post that can fit on your screen at any given time. And so as you're scrolling, you only consume one thing at a time, and it's going to be populated with the things you spend the most time on. And like I said, teaching the algorithm what you want to interact with. And I don't want that space, that valuable time that I'm in there, to be consumed with shit that's making me pissed off. And sometimes it becomes proactively not letting these stimuli from all of the things. But we can actually curate to a fair degree so that we minimize just how much of the real rubbish that we're voluntarily choosing to put in front of ourselves as well, right? So if we curate that fairly effectively, and then we're intentional on top of it, and again, social media can be a metaphor for almost anything. It's how we go about YouTube. It's how we go about watching Netflix. It is how we go through the world and the environments that we put ourselves in and the people we spend our time with. I mean, there's something to be said for curating
the people we have in our social circle, the proverbial you will be the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. There is a fundamental underlying truth to that, because the type of conversations those people are having, are they gossiping about other people? Or are they talking about building and livelihood and family, or any other thing that probably on average is a little bit more constructive use of your time, more enlightening, more educational, more fulfilling, and more positive?
Mm. I think that's a really good parallel, of the things that you have on your screen and the people that you spend your time with, because you're spending time a little bit with the people on the screen. It's like, well, you're filling your brain with that. I'm not going to sit in a extremist circle on a Sunday afternoon and be like, yeah, let's listen to what everything you got to say. I'm like, okay, well, as long as you're not hurting anyone, go do your thing, but it's not my thing. I'm going to go like chill with my lady, or I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to read or something, right? It's going to add water to my cup. I think a lot of us have got holes in the bottom of our cup and we've not quite realized it yet. It's just leaking water everywhere. I was like, yeah, dude, there's a mirror. Go look at it. Go talk to yourself. Go think that. I think we don't spend enough time thinking, because thinking usually comes up with a lot of questions rather than answers, right? And we're the answer. The universe is the answer. All the things out there are the answer, but we just haven't asked the right question yet.
It's people are uncomfortable with being bored. They don't, you're right. They don't want to be left alone with their own thoughts, because for whatever reasons. So they will fill it full of the easiest and most accessible hits of dopamine. And of course, that's why we come back to social media and the random and variable reinforcement of, you never know what you're going to get on the next swipe of the screen. It's the same phenomenon as people get caught up in video lottery terminals, gambling of all kinds, right? It's what's the next hand of cards going to be dealt? What is the next line of icons that you're going to get? And you don't know, but you keep hitting the button and you keep staying at the table to consume more of it. And social media works very much the same way. It's engineered that way. So you have a choice. You have a choice to proactively decide, I want to consume less of this stuff, set better boundaries around it, and open yourself up to a little bit of boredom and let your mind wander, and confronting maybe some of the things you really don't like about yourself. That's a tough one. And then ask yourself, all right, am I motivated to engage in behavior that changes how I feel right now, how I feel about myself, and put you on a better path? Looks like we're almost out of time based on the timer. Alex, I really appreciate you having me on, man. Thank you very much.
No, brother, this is an honor and privilege, mate. Talking shop, throwing ideas out there, being creative with our language. That's something that is a massive privilege of mine, to be able to at least be a part of it. So I just want to say thank you, man.
Thank you,
brother. We'll throw it down sometime whenever I make it over to the Great White North.
Big place.
All right. I'll find you. Cheers, brother.
Very big place.
Have a good day, man.
You too. Thanks so much for having me on. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.